Who you think probably done that right there? You know, just to be curious to see what they say. And you say, I don't know, but whoever done it, that's some remarkable talent, you know? That's some remarkable talent.
That COINTELPRO, the counterintelligence program set up by J. Edgar Hoover, saw that the Panthers were doing a damn good job because all over the country they got this buzz. They infiltrated them, meaning they got people to say that they were Panthers, they joined the Panthers, and they would start the ruckus. Like, say, let's go shoot up the Botanical Gardens or some shit. You know what I'm saying? And do it in the name of the Panthers, but it's a cop. You know what I'm saying? And straight up, we're Fred Hampton is laying in his bed. They hire his bodyguard to give them a floor plan of this man's house, a floor plan of this man's house. The police is doing this. Had the police raid this shit in the middle of the night. Nobody asked shit, just shoot. This man died in his sleep. Now, why would they do this to a young black organization? And why would you not think they would do it to me?
Your dad got locked up. You were in the military. You come out, and you hook up with Tupac in Oakland, in the Bay Area. Where was Tupac in terms of his music career at that time when you guys, touched base again?
Pac was He was still running around with Ray Love, DJ Diz, and his rap group Strictly Dope.
Ray Love had already appointed me as manager, and I was like, no, it's not happening. And Ray is Cab Calloway's grandson. Okay. And so he came from a musical family, and before Pac even came along, and you must know, Ray Love wrote the first song Tupac ever released. He was the one that really saw my ability to do business, but Ray's father paid me a private visit, showed up at my house and said, if you work with my son, you are gonna pay. We don't wanna be in this business. I loved him and Pac and Damone and all of them dearly, and how could I choose? So I was like, y'all gotta be a group. And that's how Strictly Dope came to be, is because I couldn't pick and choose, but I knew I wasn't allowed to help Ray, so if we slide him into a group, then it was a way to deal with it. So Pac started giving everyone my number. Holler at my manager. And then Pac kept sliding me the business of music books. And so he'd sit down, he'd read about publishing, he'd read about all these things. So in essence, they actually realized that I had a gift that I didn't see, and they trained me to represent them, always understanding that eventually I would come back to what I'm passionate about, and I would do it until I didn't have to quit every other day. People think, they have the nerve to think that Tupac got rid of me.
You know, it was a few months before, you know, me and the family linked back up once I got to the Bay. So as soon as I got to Oakland, I started working on my music, and then I linked up with Tony, and I recorded Feels Good.
So was it like a big eye-opening thing for Pac when he saw his brother suddenly with the video on MTV, you know, wearing a little suit, you know?
Yeah. I mean, you know, I was doing it. We were number one. That record was number one.
That was a great record. It still is.
So it was, you know, it was inspiring. Pac was already rapping. He was already creative, but he hadn't made it yet professionally. Then he linked up with Digital.
Yeah.
And they took him on tour, and, you know, the rest is history.
When did Tupac first start coming around?
He was in this group called Strictly Dope with Ray Love and DJ Diz, or Dizzy is what we called him. They were managed at the time by Layla Steinberg. And Layla knew Atron, who we were signed to. I guess Layla reached out to Atron, was like, I got these guys. I know that Tupac had auditioned for Shock at Starlight Studios one time by himself, but the first time I met him was in West Oakland, 39th and Market, when the whole group came over to the house.
I heard him prior to that because I signed him before there was a Strictly Dope demo. We signed Tupac and Strictly Dope, and we didn't know we were signing Strictly Dope. We knew we were going to sign Tupac. So what happened was, during that time, you know, we were having a lot of success. We were getting deals for different groups. A lot of things were going on. And so the rule kind of Shock and I had is if there's someone that I like, then they go to him. If he likes him also, then I'll sign him. What happened was Layla Steinberg sent me a videotape of Tupac, which I cannot find, of him performing in front of on the grass in front of the high school or somewhere. And I think it might have even been all the guys. I don't recall exactly. And I said, I really like this. And I said, you know, let's set up an appointment to go to Starlight to see Shock in the studio. If Shock likes it, then we'll do a deal.
We were getting ready to go on our first national tour, I think, with Big Daddy Kane. And Strictly Dope had broken up, but Atron had retained Tupac as a solo artist. And Tupac was fed up. He thought it was taking too long. So he's like, yo, I'm about to quit rapping. I'm about to go to Atlanta and join the New African Panthers, and I'm about to just dive into this political shit. 'Cause fuck rapping. It's taking too long. Anyways, when we were getting ready to go on this first tour, Atron hit up Shock and was like, yo, I'm about to lose him. You know, can you guys take him on tour with you? You know, he'll do anything. I just want to keep him busy before I lose him. And the initial plan was to bring my brother Cullen out on the road to be the other Humpty dancer with me. And Shock was like, you know, he got at me. He was like, look, man, your brother doesn't do anything. He just danced. But, you know, we're thinking about replacing your brother with Tupac. But I got it. You know, Cullen didn't do shit. And Pac did. So I was like, yeah, it's cool.
So he hooked up with Digital Underground, and he was a backup dancer initially, right?
Yeah.
And the misconception is that we brought him out to be a dancer. We didn't. We brought him out to do whatever was needed to be done. So he would help Fuse set up the turntables or, you know, set up the stage. During the show, he would get 4 bars here or do Pac-Man with Shock or Humpty or, you know, just kind of fill in the blanks of what was needed to be done. And when it was time to do the Humpty dance or any of the dances, he did those dances as well. But what I always tell people, every time you see Tupac dancing, you see me dancing.
Right.
Why am I not considered the dancer? We dance equally, so he didn't do any more dancing than anybody else did.
You know, and then Same Song came out. That was the first time he was featured.
That's his first
song.
Yeah. He was also in the movie Nothing But Trouble with Dan Aykroyd.
Right,
Digital,
right. Well, that same song was
Demi Moore.
Same song was from that soundtrack.
Exactly.
And it just so happened that we got off, I forget which tour it was. It was a successful tour, and we had just came home, and we had met Dan Aykroyd at one of our shows, and they wanted us to do this. They wanted Shock to do a song for the soundtrack, and we were in the movie as well. And Pac was already a part of us, so
Same song.
same song.
And that was Tupac's first appearance on a major.
Yeah, that was
record.
how the world was introduced.
Yeah, that song comes out. It was a cool song, but it wasn't like a mega hit, or was it? I couldn't really tell.
Gold.
Oh, won gold. Okay, my bad.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, my bad. I guess I'm comparing it to like the Humpty Dance.
Well, no,
and stuff
obviously,
like that.
Humpty Dance was double platinum.
Yeah,
It
see, that's what I'm talking
didn't
about.
do nearly what that did.
Yeah,
Right.
but it went gold, so it did well.
Simultaneously, you know, because a lot of stuff was coming through digital, and you know, they were being asked to do a lot of stuff. The Juice movie came.
Now I gotta give a shout out to my bro, another one I lost, Tupac. Because the funny thing is, we met on the road. So I was a roadie, which is carrying bags.
For Queen Latifah.
You damn right.
Yeah.
But Tupac was a roadie
For Digital Underground, yeah.
So we met on the road being bag carriers. And then he'll come out, same song, he rap. Then I rap with Latifah, had my little slot. And then boom, when we get in after we carry our shit, he like, where we going? Let's find a hood, get some weed.
Well, you tried out for the Bishop role, right?
Yeah, and I didn't know shit about acting. Latifah
Right.
said, you ain't gonna do more than just be a rapper, go and try for them. I'm like, all right, I'll do. So I'm reading the role like, what side, Pac was, he went to school. He went to school of art. He knew how,
Yeah.
he came up in there. He actually read right after I did. I came out, I'm like, shh, what up? He go up in there, boom, he's just a motherfucker, you gonna live, die, bitch, bop, bop. I'm standing outside, I'm like, yo, you all right? He said, nah, I'm ready for the road. I said, nigga, you better get that motherfucker, cause you convinced my ass.
Casting director interviewed hundreds of kids, maybe even thousands. One day, Tretch came in from Naughty by Nature. He auditioned, but he had this guy that was with him. I said, well, what about you? You want to audition? He said, yeah, sure, why not? So I gave him the sides, originally for Q, but at that time, I pretty much figured I knew who my Q was. I was having a hard time finding Bishop, and I just said to him, hey man, thanks a lot, but can you stay longer and read for this role? And I gave him the sides for Bishop. He went away, came back, did Bishop, did a very good job. I said, okay, what's your name? He said, Tupac. I said, that's an interesting name. What's your last name? Shakur. And I said, are you any relation to Asada Shakur? He said, yeah, that's my aunt. I said, oh, wow, tell her, how is she? You know, because she's, you know, a legend. He said, she's okay. Tell her I said hi, and we have your contact info? Yeah, okay, he left. As soon as the door closed, we looked at each other, we said, wow, that's him.
He got it, and if you see, Pac always had his family. It was us, it was me, him, Ed Lover, Mo Preem, rest in peace again, Live Squad, from Queens, Big Stretch. He had like 7 of us in his suite, just because he kept everybody, and he was like, yo, I'm gonna get you in this role. So Tupac got me actually in Juice movie.
Yeah.
So you see me, they like, why is you with the Puerto Rican gang over there? I said, how am I gonna say it? I was Dominican. We was uptown, I was from Washington Heights. That's why I was in.
Now the story that might never have surfaced if someone hadn't picked up his home video camera. We've all seen the pictures of Los Angeles police officers beating a man they had just pulled over. The city's police chief said today he will support criminal charges against some of the men. Here's ABC's Gary Shepard.
The 3 police officers facing felony criminal charges were among a group of 15 who stopped a 25-year-old black man last Saturday night, then beat him, kicked him, and clubbed him, unaware that an amateur photographer was recording the incident on videotape. Los Angeles Police Chief Daryl Gates looked at the tape and said he thinks assault with a deadly weapon will be one of the charges.
In our review, we find that the officers struck him with batons between 53 and 56 times. One officer rendered 6 kicks and one officer 1 kick.
Civil rights organizations say the Los Angeles Police Department has a history of brutality and misconduct that goes back a quarter of a century, including one incident that sparked the Watts riots. So far this year, there have been more than 125 complaints of police misconduct filed with watchdog organizations.
We no longer want to have to wake up each morning not knowing what fear to expect next. Today, we are not sure that the police is there to protect us.
But Chief Gates today called the LAPD a model department and said he has no plans to resign. Gary Shepard, ABC News, Los Angeles.
People saw him in same song, and he was with Digital, so they assumed that there was a lot going on there. He was, he was about to do it, but he ain't have a deal yet. As soon as he got Juice, the record deal came.
Oh, okay, because everyone was looking at him at that point.
Yeah, and it was already in the works.
And then he gets his deal with Interscope.
Right.
There was actually an incident, and a lot of people, they don't really talk about it, but there was an incident where Tupac got beat up by the police.
Mm-hmm.
Were you with him when that happened?
We was living together.
You were living together.
He had gone to the bank, came home all scarred up, mad. I took the pictures.
What exactly happened in that situation? Because I remember reading a little bit about it during the time, but this was like 20 years ago. So
he was in downtown Oakland.
Yeah.
He was just starting to get money, from the movie, getting nice, decent sized checks. He didn't have a full-time assistant at the time, so he was going to the bank.
Basically, I walked across the street, 17th and Broadway. The police officer stopped me on the sidewalk and asked to see my ID. They sweated me about my name. The officers said, you have to learn your place. They were charging me with jaywalking, so I was riffing, arguing about why would they charge me with such a petty crime. So I kept yelling, asking them to give me my citation and let me go about my business. Next thing I know, my face was being buried into the concrete and I was laying face down in the gutter, waking up from being unconscious in cuffs with blood on my face, and I'm going to jail for resisting arrest. That's harassment to me, that I have to be stopped in the middle of the street and checked like we're in South Africa and asked for my ID. Officer Boyvic repeatedly slammed my face into the floor while Rogers put the cuffs on me. That's not called for jaywalking.
He jaywalked. When he jaywalked, the cops, jack him up and starts fucking with him and asking him his name. That's when the problems really started. It's like, what's your name? What's your name? He's like, Tupac Shakur. Like, what type of name is Tupac? Your mother named you that name? And Pac flipped out.
Although he's recorded with Digital Underground and he's still with the group, he has his own solo album out called Tupacalypse Now. Let's talk more about your album, Tupacalypse Now.
That's what I want to talk about.
Yeah. Let's talk more about these messages in this album.
Okay.
All right. So what about the one where it's called, let me see, I Don't Give a F.
Everybody picked that one.
I don't give a F? Okay.
I don't. I really don't. Like when people ask me, well, when are you going to think about when people start saying you curse too much? I don't give a F. What are you going to think about when they say that, you know, God shouldn't have 2 earrings? I don't give a F. What are you going to think about brothers saying, why you sticking up for the females? You must be sprung. I don't give a F. What are you going to say when the police stop you and they say you can't do? I don't give a F. We got to stand up at some point and just stop stuttering. Like Sister Soldier says, I give her maximum props. Stop stuttering, stop knee buckling, and just say what you mean, and say it loud.
I remember the album, you know, I used to go down to Rasputin Records because I was going to Berkeley, UC Berkeley at the time. And I saw the album on there, and it was like, all right. And I started seeing some of the videos that came out. Trapped came out, and it was like, all right, this is cool.
Written by Ray Love.
Written by Ray Love, right, from Strictly Dope.
Correct.
And then when My Homie's Call came out, and I'm like, okay, this is cool. Then Brenda's Got a Baby, and I'm like, yo, what is this? Like, this is some other shit.
Right.
It was a whole different thing. You didn't hear songs like Brenda Got a Baby.
That story is, you know, it was based on a real story, and you know that's why Pac wrote it. But that's where that was coming from as well.
So there was really a girl who threw her baby in a trash can. And
He actually got the idea of that song from a article that he read in the New York Times. So, you know, I hear some rumors about somebody claiming that they wrote it. Bullshit.
Yo, I got a question. You know that video you made when that girl had to throw that baby in the dumpster?
Yeah.
What inspired you to make that song in that video?
I was reading the New York Post when I was doing the movie Juice, and it was this story. It started out to be this big story about this family who died because they didn't have heat and they left the gas on. Everybody died except for this girl. She moved in with her cousins, second cousins. She started dating her second cousin. He got her pregnant. Nobody noticed she was pregnant. I was like, dang. And it was over a week. But the story kept getting smaller, smaller, and smaller. And I was like, this is like very important, more important than Juice. To me, it was a bigger story than Juice. And right now, nobody talks about that. No young black males, no black males talk about black females like we should. We need to take more responsibility for our sisters, because if we don't, who will?
We were on a PR tour, and Pac had read it in the paper, and came home and did the song.
So a lot of people like to romanticize Tupac's career and everything he did was multi-platinum, but in fact that album didn't do very well.
Yeah, it bombed. So what's funny is that if Tupac was signed today, you guys wouldn't even know him because his first album didn't do shit.
Yeah.
But back then...
And 3 singles, 3 videos,
Yeah.
like they spent a lot of money on it.
They did, but Interscope, Tom Wiley, and I think Jimmy Iovine was there at the time, they believed in him as an artist. So they were patient enough to let him develop.
Pac saw the game, you know, once we became of value, of some sort of value, Pac recognized that the songs was the money. The songs was the money. I need another big one. Keep grinding, you know. We stay in that studio, we gonna pop another one. So we stay working.
Okay. Now, at what point did Thug Life kind of form?
Thug Life, baby, around 92, 93.
Okay, explain what that means, number one.
The hate you gave little infants fucks everyone.
Okay.
You know, Thug Life represent the poor and disenfranchised of all nationalities, you know, who are oppressed by economics and power structure and racism and sexism and all the isms. You know what I mean?
Where early on, back in while we were doing the Strictly album, you know, Pac had also came up with 50 Niggas. And that's what we was working on first. And 50 Niggas kind of morphed into Thug Life because we had some of the same principles, you know. And Thug Life was more inclusive and it was a better idea. So that's what you know, decided to smash with.
Pac, we both of us come from parents who were community organizers, and we were trying to do the same thing. And it's like, you know, us being raised a lot in the streets, we see these groups of people, and we need to be doing something positive with these groups of people, you know, but we had to get their attention first. So our first attempt at that was 50 Niggas. So 50 Niggas represented the states, one good nigga, one good brother in every state. As long as we have one, we can accomplish anything. So that's what it began as. And, you know, the name was a bit controversial or whatever. So, but we, you know, in-house, we were still using it until you know, Pac became the catalyst for the thug movement. And we reworked it. We included our father to help us, you know, we wrote the thug code.
So explain to me how Thug Life came together as a group.
Well, it was never really a group. It was just some cats that was put together. When I met Pac, I was already had a project. I had my own record label, and so I was already in the mix of things. So he said he wanted to start this thing called Thug Life. So me and him went to the studio, and we did this song called Thug Life.
You know, to be honest, the way it happened, man, Pac handpicked all of us, bro.
Real
He
talk.
had a vision of doing this group called Thug Life, and he basically handpicked everybody and put us all together as a group. You know what I mean? And that's how it really happened.
Okay. So how long was it until, you know, from the moment that, you know, you guys met him to the point where Thug Life became an official group?
I never really seen it as a group because, like you said, he was already in a group. I was already in a group. Mo was in a group. You know, everybody was already in like groups, so it was just kind of a combination of everything. And the original Thug Life album is not the album that came out. The original Thug Life album got Richie Rich on it. That's where, you know, some of the songs came off, like How Long Will They Mourn Me with Nate Dogg. Some of those songs was on the original Thug Life album. Like I'm Losing It was on the original Thug Life album. It was a bunch of songs that was on that original Thug Life album that Interscope didn't, Interscope didn't want to be a part of it at first.
Okay.
Pac forced it on him by screaming it and doing it himself. And let me also give some shouts out for real though to Man and Babes, because it wouldn't be no Thug Life album.
And Mike Cooley.
It wouldn't be no Thug Life album if it wasn't for Man and Babes, because they the one put up the bread.
Okay.
Yeah, most definitely.
and also what was going on that no one got to hear that original in its original form, because if people remember at the time there was censorship issues going on. C. Dolores Tucker.
Yeah.
They were going after everybody. Body Count, us, Two Live Crew, you know, so we had to water down
everything.
The album.
Okay. Like how long were you guys working on that Thug Life album by the time it came out?
It was over the course of a year, because we had like the concept first, and we were writing the thug code, and we were songs that we already had. We were seeing what fit the concept. With the money Pac, some of the money Pac got from Poetic Justice, we went on tour. We went on Thugs for Life tour.
Okay.
And you know, on the road we would stop and do songs at different studios while on the road. And by the time we got back to LA,
You know, we had to put the finishing touches on it. He had me oversee it, pick songs. And that was a whole nother drama because, you know, that's when Time Warner was getting shut down, you know.
Cop Killer?
Ice-T, all that was going on. We fell into that. And, you know, at first, the first run of the album, they were saying was too hard.
Word, I pull the trigger long.
Rap artist Ice-T is in hot water with police officers across the country. In his song, Cop Killer, Ice-T raps about a desire to murder police officers. The New York State Sheriff's Association is outraged and has called for police across the nation to boycott all Time Warner products. Executives at Time Warner refused an on-camera interview but did issue a statement which says in part, quote, "We absolutely deplore all the violence, particularly violence against law enforcement officials. Nevertheless, it is vital that we stand by our commitment to the free expression of ideas for all our authors, journalists, recording artists, screenwriters, actors, and directors." Is not alone in its distaste for Ice-T. Police associations in Texas have already called for a similar boycott against Time Warner, and the governor of Alabama has requested that the song be banned from store shelves. In Manhattan, Heidi Kemp, Channel 9 News.
Ice-T called Cop Killer, a first-person depiction of black urban rage over such things as the beating by Los Angeles police last year of black motorist Rodney King. Last week, police groups in Texas called for a boycott of all products made by Time Warner, the conglomerate that owns, among other things, Warner Brothers Records, the label that distributes the new Ice-T album Body Count, on which Cop Killer appears. Now the New York State Sheriff's Association has called upon New Yorkers, perhaps unrealistically, to boycott the new Warner Brothers movie Batman Returns. In response to all this, Time Warner defends its right to produce films and records no matter how objectionable their content may be to certain groups.
April 11th, 1992. Ronald Ray Howard, a 19-year-old ex-con from Houston, drives a stolen Chevy Blazer down Highway 59 towards Jackson County, Texas, about 100 miles west of Houston. On the way, he passes 43-year-old State Trooper Bill Davidson, who's patrolling the rural stretch of road. Trooper Davidson pulls Howard over near this way station and radios in the license plate number. But Trooper Davidson does not wait for the radio dispatcher to return the call. Instead, he gets out of his car and approaches the Blazer. Ronald Ray Howard is waiting, contemplating the fix he's in. Already on probation for auto theft, he does not want to be caught again. He moves his right hand over to grip the 9mm pistol lying on the passenger seat.
He reached in his pocket and got the clip, stuck it into the gun, racked a shell in the chamber, held it to his chest, left the vehicle in drive for a fast getaway, looked out the side window and watched as the trooper neared the vehicle. And when the trooper got close enough, as he said, that he knew he wouldn't miss, he leaned out the window, stuck the gun up against his throat. The trooper actually stuck his hand up to try to deflect or get away. The bullet went through his hand and through his throat.
Trooper Davidson lay bleeding along the shoulder of the highway. He would die from his wounds 3 days later. Howard floored his Blazer and barreled down Highway 59 towards Victoria, Texas. Several motorists who had witnessed the shooting called 911.
An all-points bulletin was put out. A female officer in Victoria saw a vehicle coming into town with the headlight out. She turned around on that vehicle. Evidently, Ronald Howard felt that she had made him, and a high-speed chase ensued.
Howard jumped out of the Blazer and fled into this apartment complex, where finally he was arrested. That night, while in custody, Howard confessed to shooting Trooper Davidson. He claimed he didn't mean to kill the policeman, just wound him so he could get away. But that lack of intent rarely matters to American justice, not when the victim is a cop. On April 16th, 1992, Trooper Bill Davidson was laid to rest in a hero's funeral. Just 2 weeks after the burial, Ronald Ray Howard was indicted for capital murder. The defense set out a two-pronged argument against a death sentence, first explaining that Howard had grown up in a tough Houston neighborhood. Defense attorney Alan Tanner put forth the linchpin of his argument, that Howard should not be put to death because of a mitigating circumstance. That he had been incited to kill Trooper Bill Davidson by listening to a particularly violent form of rap music known as gangsta rap. The night of the shooting, Howard was listening to gangsta rapper Tupac Shakur's Tupacalypse album. which contains a dozen songs that describe the killing of cops. Tanner argued that the music reinforced Howard's childhood hatred of cops. The words of the rappers became Howard's gospel.
Ronald idolized these guys. These guys were his heroes. And they were telling him, hey, look, you've come from a bad background. You've had these white cops messing with you all these years. You know, these guys are telling him, his heroes, Ronald, fight back.
Prosecutor Bobby Bell didn't fight the unique defense argument. In fact, he embraced it to press for a death penalty.
If this young man can be so easily influenced by gangster rap music that he is willing to assassinate a DPS trooper for no other reason, then I say that's a continuing threat to society, which is the issue before the jury.
On July 14th, 1993, they finally decided that Ronald Ray Howard should die by lethal injection.
The jury in the Rodney King case has delivered its verdict, and not one of the 4 police officers seen on videotape beating Mr. King a year ago is guilty of using excessive force. They've all been found not guilty. We go directly to California and ABC's Judy Muller. Judy, the details.
Peter, it was a clean sweep for the defendants. Not guilty, the verdict for all of them: Sergeant Stacy Kuhn, officers Tim Wind, Lawrence Powell, Ted Briseno. Not guilty of assault, not guilty of filing false reports. Only on one count against Lawrence Powell, on excessive use of force under color of authority, could the jury not agree. On that count, the judge declared a mistrial.
The verdicts come more than a year after an amateur photographer taped the police beating of Rodney King. The prosecution never called King to the stand, relying instead on the power of the videotape to tell his story. Police Chief Daryl Gates has called the beating an aberration, a characterization supported by a key witness for the prosecution. LAPD Commander Michael Bostic told the court that almost all the actions taken by the defendants on that tape were outside the department's accepted guidelines for use of force. The defense tried to dilute the impact of the tape by dissecting it, frame by frame, in an effort to show that King was a threat to the officers. The only officer to take a different strategy was Ted Briseno, who said he tried to stop the others from carrying out what he considered to be a brutal beating. Worried about how his police force might react to the verdict, Chief Gates made his own videotape last week.
It's our job to maintain a calmness, a professional and mature attitude, no matter what that verdict happens to be. Each of us.
Well, now that the verdict is not guilty, the mayor is expected to call for calm throughout the city. Chief Gates has put aside $1 million fund to pay for overtime for 1,000 police officers who have been placed on alert following this verdict. Peter?
Judith, you know your city pretty well. The fact that those police officers have been put on alert anticipates a reaction to a not guilty verdict?
I don't think there's much doubt that there's going to be quite a reaction.
People were appalled at the jury verdict, asking how could they be not guilty? We saw the crime being committed.
If the King verdict was the spark, the fuel for this week's explosion here in Los Angeles was frustration with conditions in the ghetto. That's what made possible the seeming illogic, which was so inexplicable to white Americans, of blacks destroying their own neighborhood.
At least $785 million worth of damage has been done in Los Angeles.
The governor of the state of California, as you know, has called a state of emergency. Almost 2,000 National Guardsmen have been sent to armories and other places lest they be aided.
The murder and destruction in the streets of Los Angeles last night and today must be stopped.
Rodney King, the man the police beat, appeals for the violence to end.
People, I just want to say, you know, can we all get along? Can we get along?
Federal grand jury action is underway today in Los Angeles. Subpoenas are being issued.
The president instructed the attorney general to step up his review of the case to see if prosecution of the 4 policemen is warranted under federal law for violating Rodney King's civil rights.
Now that the major violence seems to be under control, the focus is on long-term recovery.
Tupac took on a fake gangster persona in order to appeal to gangs and then politicize them. And that was part of the Bloods versus Crips peace truce movement. Former Black Panthers and other black activists had gotten the notorious gangs that were warring against each other, the Bloods and the Crips, to stop fighting each other and to fight racism. Yeah. So slowly but surely, these gang peace truces started to spread throughout California and then across the country.
Well, Jerry, we've heard talk of gang truces before, and for the most part, that is all it has ever been, talk. But tonight, talk and action spawned by one of the few men who who have been able to get through to gang members since they've been killing each other on the streets of the Southland.
Rising above the ashes from the riots of 1992 is a covenant that could forever change the face of Los Angeles. The devastation and death toll have apparently convinced the city's two notorious gangs they should stop killing each other.
People don't lost brothers, mothers, sisters, daughters, sons, everything over this, you know what I'm saying? And I think it's time for our people to come together. I'm a blood, and I love my blood, I love my homies. You know what I'm saying? These is Crips, they black. You know what I'm saying? It's time to come as one.
Across the city, we have different elements that have been working continually to bring about peace.
It is a truce that has apparently been orchestrated by Hall of Fame running back turned community activist Jim Brown. For years, he's been teaching Crips and Bloods self-esteem and economic empowerment through a program called N.I.G.G.A.Z.
We teach our skills, life management skills, and it's the kind of education which allows them to negotiate better, to put it into a forum where individuals can communicate and come together.
Because as black people, we need to check ourselves first before we wreck ourselves.
After 2 decades of war and nearly 10,000 gang homicides, it would certainly be an historic settlement known in the hood as tying rags.
And I'm happy to see that we all gonna come together. You know what I'm saying? Ain't nobody gonna be killing each other over no punk ass color again.
We ain't tying no rags. They blue, we red.
We all feuding with each other, and then all of a sudden y'all want to get together. For me, really, I ain't with it.
And others are skeptical as well.
That would be the ideal situation if they were to call it off. Of course, the downside of that was if they refocused their efforts on the police.
Lieutenant John Duncan fears the gang rivalry could be put aside only to focus anger on police. Police received a handwritten flyer that illustrates that concern. And in some areas of the city, the fears could be warranted.
We ain't going for no harassment, put on the car, put on the ground. We ain't going for it. We gonna do what we got to do.
But tonight at Jim Brown's Hollywood Hills home, where the truce is being drawn up, there was no mention of targeting police. It is a first-of-its-kind peace treaty between Crips and Bloods to lay down their arms.
These young men are going to be the catalyst for a better country.
It might be a little peace. Maybe not for long, though, you know, but it's going to be a little peace.
It almost sounds too good to be true, but Jim Brown says, yes, indeed, the treaty is authentic, and it is being patterned after an Israeli-Egyptian peace settlement drawn up during the Camp David peace accords, even complete with guidelines to follow if the treaty is broken. Jerry, Tani?
Okay, we'll wait and see on that.
The truce has lasted now for 3 weeks. Members of the two main rival gang factions, the Crips and the Bloods, now attend frequent parties together.
Come on back to the underground.
Where there had been an average of 2 gang-related killings a day, authorities confirmed that the killings by black gangs have stopped.
As far as working with gangs, this is the absolute biggest deal that I've ever come in contact with.
Gang members claim the truce occurred spontaneously during the rioting, out of mutual hostility toward the police.
Well, they was like, well, hey, we got to do this. No longer should we shed our own blood on these streets because it's endless and senseless murders. It doesn't make no sense.
Our main priority was to stop the killing because that was the most harmful thing that came out of gangs.
The individual gang members continue to commit crimes, such as drug dealing and armed robbery. And violence still flares occasionally, as it did this week when a fight at a street party attended by 600 gang members left 2 men critically injured. Police are skeptical about the truce. They say gang rivalries will eventually lead to more killings.
I even see some of the rivalries starting up again. You know, what else have they got to do out here?
But the people who live in gang-plagued neighborhoods are happy about any pause in the gang killings.
This the safest I've felt on the streets in a long time, though.
It would mean a whole lot to us because that means that we can still go back out on the streets and not be fear of the gangs, really.
Even gang members admit that maintaining the peace will be difficult. There are hundreds of factions within the gangs, many of them heavily armed, and not all gang members may be willing to go along with the truce for long. Ron Claiborne, ABC News, Los Angeles.
Many of these people are policemen from around the country who want Warner Brothers Records to yank the album Body Count off store shelves. Actor Charlton Heston, an NRA supporter and a Time Warner shareholder, joined the protest against the album. Other Time Warner shareholders were not so publicity conscious and were ushered into the meeting away from the cameras and the demonstrators. The company did set aside time for some of its critics to address the meeting. A few are policemen wounded in the line of duty who earlier spoke to reporters. In spite of all the protests, Time Warner has refused to pull the album off the market. As a matter of fact, in cities where the protesters have been most vocal, sales of the album have increased.
Sales of the album Body Count surged following Tuesday's announcement by artist Ice-T that in the wake of police complaints, he is dropping the controversial track Cop Killer from all new copies of his record.
I'm going to pull the song off the record just to prove to them that it ain't about money and bring the actual song back to South Central where it came from. I will give this record away free at my concerts.
Business manager Watani Tayahimba told me that he first felt solidly sure that there was an attack on Tupac after the Marin Fest shooting, when strangers punched Tupac for no reason and then shot at him. Then police arrested Tupac instead of the people that were attacking him.
The shooting that happened in the park in Marin. Edie, you were actually there.
No,
yeah. So can you detail what happened?
We had just me, Castro, and Gaddafi had went to California.
Yeah.
You know, to start our rap career, basically.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Gaddafi wasn't nothing but 13 years old, like 13, 14 years old. He was really young. And Castro was only like a couple of years older than that.
And you were how old?
I was 17.
Okay.
I remember Pac he had just bought a Jeep, and he was in a good mood. He was like, yo, I want to go back to, to the hood, basically.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So Pac wanted to go back and just show, local kid made good. Be an inspiration to the kids. There was a bunch of kids in the park. He knew it was gonna be, a joyous occasion for people to see him, because, the album wasn't as popular as he may have liked, but Juice was a hit, and people, like he was that guy at that time. Immediately when we got there, it was like all these people just turned around and just converged on Pac. It was like the whole park. And it was all love. And these dudes just came out of nowhere. You know what I mean? And they started having words with Pac. You know what I'm saying? And Pac was trying to diffuse the situation because he knew what was around. And one of them took off on Pac. And that dude that punched Pac in the face, the littlest dude that was there, Mouse, knocked him out. Cold. Bam, he dropped like a sack of potatoes. And then after that, we just started hearing gunshots. And so we had to run across this park to where the truck was at. It was like a 100-yard run. And I'm running and I'm hearing bullets whiz past my head. And I just heard this voice in the background saying, yo, Mout, yo, Mout. And it was Castro. He had a broke leg. So I had to stop, and I literally had to carry him over the fence to get to the truck. Man. But it slowed us up because they had to wait for us. So by the time we got to the truck, the crowd had caught up to us. And they started tearing the truck up. They started throwing bricks. Cass was pulling out guns, aiming it at us like, nah, I'm gonna kill him, I'm gonna kill him. They killed the kid, they shot a kid. And we was like, what? You know what I mean? We still don't know what it is. And they literally tearing this dude brand new Jeep Cherokee up. He laid on top of us.
Tupac.
Yeah, he laid on top of us. He was getting hit in the head with bricks and everything. And he laid on top of us
while it was kids, you know what I mean?
While Mopreme was trying to figure out how to get out. You know what I mean? He kind of panicked a little bit, understandably so, because it was literally a whole park full of people, you know what I mean, trying to kill us.
Yeah. And then finally you guys managed to get away.
Well, we Mo made a wrong turn and drove us back into the neighborhood.
Wow.
So you guys all get arrested?
Yeah.
How did you feel when you found out that a kid died?
I felt terrible. I felt terrible, and I felt even worse because it was the first time I seen Pac cry since we was kids.
Oh, he cried?
Yeah.
All of you were questioned by the police, I assume.
Mm-hmm.
But they ultimately never found who did it.
Nope.
But Pac sort of got the blame for it.
Of course. I think he got sued.
Oh, he got sued.
You know what I mean?
By the family?
I think it was one of many lawsuits that he eventually, you know, had to settle. And it was a kid from the neighborhood. You know what I mean? He knew that kid's family.
How old was the kid?
He was very young.
Like 5 years
I don't want to make a mistake, but he was very young.
I was in the monologue last week talking about this article that was in the paper where the guy killed an officer and then said it was because of your lyrics. I guess the actual tape was in the car or something.
I got it bad, man.
Yeah, it's so much stuff, man.
Got it bad. People just go, who do we get? Who got the craziest name?
Tupac! Got him! When you read that, what did you say?
I said, whoo. I mean, I got beat up by the police before. So to me, I felt like, whoo. You know what I'm saying? But I didn't do it. So I felt like, you know, whatever he got to do to stay out to the death penalty or whatever, let him do it. You know, I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah,
you know?
but you know what the judge say?
Yeah.
Mama said lock you up.
Guilty.
Now wrap that.
Judge said guilty.
Yes.
Grand jury testimony in April, Howard was non-committal when asked whether the Tupacalypse Now album had influenced him in allegedly shooting State Trooper Bill Davidson. Nevertheless, Davidson's widow has filed a multi-million-dollar civil suit against Tupac and his record company, which will necessitate another trial on the music's merits, one similar to the trial of English metal band Judas Priest a few years back. Tupac himself has had no comment on the Howard case, but now he may be subpoenaed to testify. Howard is facing a possible death sentence.
But the whole bad part is they was bothering me. And I had the vice president on TV talking about taking my record off the shelves. Police, you know, every time they see me, they think I'm a cop killer. I never see what I do. Just because somebody just put my name in it. So there's really no way, you know, to get around it except to keep struggling. You know, there's people that struggle harder than me and go through things harder than me. So it's a small thing.
The first album comes out, it didn't have any super huge smashes, but then the second album comes out, and then I Get Around, Keep Your Head Up. I feel like that kind of cemented him to the masses in a way.
Yeah, again, Keep Your Head Up was another song for the community. You know, them thugs, them people living in the thug world and the thug life. You know what I mean? The thugs and the wives of thugs, and the, you know what I mean? That was our people, you know?
I Get Around came out though, and that was a smash though. But were you there when it was?
Indeed, N.I.G.G.A.Z.
Performing his hit single, I Get Around, from his CD, strictly from my N.I.G.G.A.Z. This is Tupac.
Me and Rated took Pac to the Slauson swap meet. And when we did the interview with Fab Five Freddy, and we had on those Dickie overalls, and the Thug Life stitched on it in the front, and the Thug Life beanies with Thug Life on it, that was me and Runner that took Pac to the swap meet, and we was all up in the swap meet getting this gear and this image and creating this image of how Thug Life was gonna be presented to the world.
Tupac has a real interesting background. For those of people that don't know about the Black Panthers were a militant black organization from the 60s.
That was handling their business in a major way.
I was handling their business, and it was a major thing. I mean, how has that affected you in terms of, you know?
It's made it to where, as I know, the police know who I am, the FBI, they already been all through my family, all through my house, all that. When I started talking some old rough stuff, they just like bombarded me and came all at me like I killed the president or something. So it's like, I know that affects me. It affects me in a good way, in a positive manner, because they couldn't slip the okie doke up on me. You know what I'm saying? I had knowledge of where I came from. So like, I didn't just get black when Malcolm X came out. I had went through my stage of being mad. You know what I'm saying? It's something after being angry. It's come time to handle your business, and that's what this is about. 93, Thug Life.
Right about here, Thug Life with Tupac. And you got another motion picture which will be hitting the screens all across America real soon. Poetic Justice.
Yeah.
Tell us about your role in Poetic Justice, co-starring with Janet Jackson.
Oh, yes. You got to see, though, I ain't finished to give out the story, but I'm a mailman. I ain't killing nobody. I'm responsible, handle my business. I got a daughter, I'm a father, so it's cool. Come check it out. And she plays a hairdresser. So all you girls in the hair salons, y'all come see it, because it's going to be about you.
And now this album that you're working on right now.
Strictly for my niggas. That's what it's called. It's my album. And it's coming out next month, February. When is it coming out? February. Yeah, February it drops. Sometime in February, strictly for my niggas. It's gonna be coming out, but it's censored, you know what I'm saying? But it's cool, it's my album, it's cool. It ain't no sellout, it's on.
Raw
check it
dog,
out.
straight from the streets.
You know what I'm saying? But yeah, it's a lot of stuff I couldn't say. A lot of stuff got cut. But a lot of stuff didn't. Holla if you hear me. You know what I'm saying? We finna come at you like that. Holla if you hear me. Video, Yo on TV Raps, my man, Fab Five Freddy. You know, they down with the thug life, if you know what I'm saying.
Yo, Tupac, man, thanks for hanging out with us, man. No, letting us go into the studio and listen to some of them beats a little bit.
Let me talk to you about something else. You know what I'm saying? Let me holler at you.
Yo, we out of here. We're gonna roll into that video on Yo on TV Rap.
You dig what I'm saying?
Well, this
And
the
I'm just saying,
coldest
like,
thing
for
about
us,
it.
LA and the West Coast,
This the thing
it was
about
a collective.
That image is already, it's a gangbanger's image. You feel what I'm saying? The image is a gangbanger's image. That tattoo across the stomach.
Right.
It's gangbangers in LA been doing that from day one.
Exactly.
You feel what I'm saying? So even the you know, just the whole image, it was a street image.
Yeah.
So by you representing the streets, you got to get what the streets is, what's going on in the streets.
Right.
And present it to the world, and that's what he did, you know.
Right. So you guys were affiliated with which gang?
Oh, I was affiliated with some real gangs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Crips?
But, I mean, it don't even matter what I was, see, because this is what I learned. This is what I learned. This is what I really learned about life. It don't matter if you're a Crip or a Blood, see. It's us against the system. Thug life to me representing everybody.
Exactly.
When you start representing just your hood, it's cats that, if you really are from a hood, it's cats that done killed from your hood, then kill somebody. Some people from other hoods done killed your homies.
Right.
And if you keep promoting that, all you creating is more of a problem.
That's
what I'm saying.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, are you concerned that possibly it'll affect box office or record sales because you're too close to the edge, you're too hard?
I mean, it was cool because I got a chance to speak to young black males all over the country about this new idea called thug life, which is a new kind of black power.
And when I say thug life, I mean that shit. Because these white folks see us as thugs. I don't care what y'all think. I don't care if you think you a lawyer, if you a man, if you an African American, if you whatever the fuck you think you are. We thugs and niggas to these motherfuckers. You know? And until we own some shit, I'ma call it like it is. How you gonna be a man and we starving? Go ahead. You know? And you can walk by 5 different houses, ain't a man in either one of them motherfuckers. How we gonna be a man? How we gonna be African Americans if we out here dying? We thugs and we niggas until we set this shit right. Trust me when I tell you that shit.
Young black males out there identify with thug life, but I couldn't handle it. I could handle it, but not right away.
Mr. Shakur, can we get a comment from you at all?
Hell no. Thug life.
No,
Thug life. Thug life. That's my comment.
What's that mean? I don't understand.
This is yours.
What did happen?
Thug life. Imagine you have 14,000 people ready to do whatever you want. You know what I'm saying? When you have all over the country people waiting to hear what you want to do. All of a sudden, I got people in the penitentiary, big-time OG criminals, calling me, telling me they want me to lead their movement. I mean, I'm gonna have a problem. There's a bad part because the kids see that and they mimic him. That's the part I haven't figured out yet. But the positive side is the kids who live in a household where the mother is a crackhead or whatever, and he hears the rap, he's like, oh, that's an everyday thing for them. So I don't have to feel ashamed. It cuts both ways. To me, it's like, when I say I live the thug life, baby, I'm hopeless. One person might hear that and just like the way it sounds, you know what I'm saying? But I'm doing it for the kid that really lives a thug life and feels like it's hopeless. So when I say hopeless, and when I say when I say it like that, it's like I reach him. You understand? And even if when I reach him, it makes it look glorious to the guy that doesn't live that life. I mean, I can't help it, it's a fad, you know. He'll drop the thug life soon enough. But for the person that I was trying to reach, he'll pick it up and I'll be able to talk to him again.
It's like this. The masses, the hungry people, they outweigh the rich. So as long as I appeal to the hungry and the poverty-stricken people, it's all good. I'm gonna have a job for life. It's these rich people who worried about the fooling the poor people. Everybody knows crime out there. Everybody know what type of situation we in the streets. All I'm doing is showing you and telling you. You know what I'm saying? Why get mad at the brother that bring you the news? Get mad at the person that's making it happen. Feel me? It's like, you know.
You know, there's a weird game that goes on because now, as a result of your art, you're becoming one of the rich.
Yes. Not rich, but they giving me checks more often. But they got this cool way to keep a brother broke. You know what I'm saying? Like you say, I got like 7 lawsuits against me for nothing. But I still got to pay the lawyers, still got to pay everybody to go to court, still got to pay for a bodyguard, because now they say I got to have one. You know, I still got to pay. You know, it's just more bills. They give me more checks, but they also give me more bills.